Well, hello everybody. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the GR86 Yuzu edition, which is in yellow. Now, I was talking to someone on the internet on one of the automotive forums, and I made the comment that, oh, that Yuzu edition, because it's yellow, that'll be hard to sell. And they wrote back to me that yellow had the best residual value. Of course, I wrote back, that's not relevant. I said it'll be hard to sell. But I thought about what they said about the residual value, that yellow had one of the highest residual values. And though there are some stats out there showing that, I don't think that that's accurate for the average person, say, buying a yellow car. Now, the Yuzu just came out, so we can't really use that as an example. We don't know the data on the Yuzu yet, right? But we can try a Japanese car, though. We can try the Nissan Z, which came out in a limited edition in the yellow. And we can look at the sales of that in yellow on Auto Trader, and we can compare that to other colors. Now, what I've found, I'll already tell you what I found, then we'll take a look at it, is that yellow doesn't have the best residual. Yellow is difficult to sell, and you should not buy any yellow car if you can avoid that. The average guy I'm talking about. Now, if you're buying a yellow Ferrari and then you're taking it years later to Mecum and auctioning that off, and it's maybe a rare color, you know, at that point, or a yellow Ferrari Dino or something like this, this is where that comes from, that residual. It throws off our residual, us regular people that are buying, say, a yellow Mustang or yellow GR86. It throws us off to think, oh, yellow has a really good residual. And for the regular guy in the regular car market, around, you know, $50,000, $60,000, and as those prices fall, you're going to get burnt buying a yellow car. Okay, let's just take a look at the Nissan Z that was a special edition. Some of these sold for, let's say, $60,000 because they sold at a premium. Unbelievable, isn't it? That people were driving across country, I remember seeing that, to buy these yellow cars, to be the first one to have one of these. And here the car is yellow, like the Yuzu edition. How can that be that a yellow car has a terrible residual? Again, it's because Ferraris, the Ferrari Dino and cars like that that were yellow had a rarity that the collectors sought out, and that skewed the statistics for you and me, because they're thinking, wow, look at these yellow cars, they have such great residuals, they're some of the best residuals in the world. No, only for rare Porsches and Ferraris and cars like that. For the average guy, we are going to get burnt buying a yellow Mustang. We're going to get burnt buying the Yuzu edition GR86. Here's another one, a 2024. Well, these are sport ones. Okay, so here's a performance with 10K miles, 2023, 38,000. That's what they're asking, though. Have you ever gone to the dealerships lately? Like a Nissan dealership? I mean, they were trying to give me a Nismo. That was a 2024 Nismo. It's still sitting there in 2026. And they were trying to give me that car. They were like, well, what do you want to pay? And I was thinking, man, do I do this to these guys? Because I really don't want the car. Do I do it just to find out? No, I didn't do it to them. I was honest with them. I said, look, This car was trying to be in the realm of the M2, the BMW M2. But it's missing everything that makes an M2. It's missing adaptive suspension. It's missing leather. Instead, they use the cheap, very cheap Alcantara-like substance made of plastic, telling you that this is going to hold you in the seat when you're doing your track day. And then nobody does the track day, of course. And so you're stuck with this material that is a fabric that absorbs sweat, and it absorbs stains, and you can't clean it like you can leather. And you're stuck with that Alcantara. Does Nissan care? No, absolutely they don't care, because they paid maybe a fourth of what they were paying for the leather, maybe a tenth of what they're paying for the leather, or somebody like Porsche who can have it manufactured for them, and they're paying a 20th of what they pay for a yard of leather, you know? So Porsche is only too happy to sell you Alcantara on the fantasy that you need to be held in the seat somehow. They're only too excited and giddy about selling you Alcantara rather than leather that lasts. I have a car that's had leather for 40 years, and I've been putting this little bottle, little black bottle that comes from Porsche on those seats every spring and every fall. I put it on the seat, right there where you get in and out where it cracks. The rest of the seat, I play it by ear. I don't do it twice a year like that. But I do right there on the edge where I get in and out. The rest of the seat, I play it by ear. I feel the leather. I see how it's doing. I'm not going to over moisturize it and have a moist leather seat there. And I've gotten 0 cracks. It's all about you, really, and your maintenance of the leather. Somebody says, well, leather seat, oh, it's going to be all cracked up in, 10 years, 15 years. Well, it depends on who owns it. That's that simple. If I own it, no, it won't. No, it won't. It will last my lifetime. If I own it, it just depends. It's all about the owner. It's a reflection on you, the owner. But Alcantara, even I would have trouble keeping that clean, because I've seen what happens. You just open the door in the rain. I was in a Porsche one time with Alcantara. I opened the door in the rain. Some rain got in on the Alcantara, and it made stains on the Alcantara, just rain coming in. So, no, I wouldn't take Alcantara at any price. When's the last time you flew out of the seat, your leather seat, because it was made out of leather? Never. Because those seats are contoured, especially in a Porsche or even a lot of sports cars. The seats are, if they're Recaro, they're contoured, and you are not going to move out of that seat. They're so contoured sometimes that it's uncomfortable to be in those seats. It starts to get to your legs, your upper legs, because those seats are so contoured, and you are not going to slide in those seats with leather. They put Alcantara on there because they save so much money. Same reason they put those gigantic displays in front of your face. BMW does that. BMW puts the big display there because one day an executive came in and said, hey, the Germans are all going EV, all EV, and we got to do it right away. So the German designers went in there and they leveled that dash, and they put that gigantic, ugly, cheap screen up there in the BMW M2, the M4, and those other cars. They put the gigantic, cheap screen. They took away these expensive to design gauges and controls that are ergonomically designed for humans. They make your life much easier. They make your life better, safer, because you can just feel that nice knob and change that temperature. But that was very expensive to have a designer. In fact, a whole room full of designers designing that stuff. Those people are all gone now. It's just a few software designers over in India or some foreign country designing that software for Porsche and Audi, BMW now. And they're saving tons and tons of money, but they're consumers that love those ergonomic designs of those things should be up in arms and very upset about it, but apparently they're not. Oh, we'll accept this gigantic cheap display held up by a strut on the back. So your passenger gets in. Look at a BMW sometimes from the passenger's side. Get in, you look at that display, you see that big strut holding it up. It's quite obviously thought of as temporary the first time they put it up there. The designers like, let's put this up there. And when they saw that the customers accepted that, are you kidding me? If you accept that cheap, ugly, gigantic display and don't complain about it, well, they're not going to change that. They saved millions and millions of dollars by those cheap, ugly displays in those BMWs. So back to the yellow cars here. Nissan Z Performance. Wow, this is a great example right here. It's in Clearwater, Infinity of Clearwater. So it's not at the Nissan dealer. What does that mean? They want to move that car. They want to get rid of that car. Like you buy a Nissan from a Chevy dealer, you are going to get a steal, let me tell you. You buy a Nissan from some other dealer besides Nissan, and you've just scored. So here's this yellow, special yellow Nissan, right? What was it called? Proto Launch Edition. Special trim and everything inside. $36,460 with 3,000 miles on it. Poor guy that bought this, he paid high 50s. He even paid a premium at the dealer above MSRP. Things were crazy back then in 2024, right? When this thing came out, 2023, 2024. And this poor sucker traded in this car. Now, if they're selling it at $36,400 over there at the Infinity dealership, what did that poor sucker get for that? 20, high 20s. And he's thinking, man, I'm getting half of what I paid for this car. Terrible, terrible. And he probably looked it up, before he bought it. He thought, let me check it real quick and see what the residuals on yellow are. Oh, they're so high. They're so high. He didn't notice that they're only so high because of the stats. And the stats are coming from Mecum auctions and those $200,000 on up cars. Yes, they're a rarity when they're yellow, and that's all that collector's concerned about. But us regular guys, we are going to get burned buying a yellow car. I'm telling you, burned. These people that are buying these Yuzu edition in yellow or green, you are going to get burned on those cars. Okay, now let's take a look at this one here, Nissan Fort Pierce, 38.2, and it only has 10,000 miles on it, a yellow one. Sure doesn't look like it has a good residual to me. 7K miles, 2024, 38,250. My experience is that the Sierra Blue with the blue interior is holding its value. That's the one that's holding the value, the blue one. So if you want to buy a GR86 and have it hold its value, I would say, it depends on how long you're holding it. Now, obviously, the Yuzu edition right now is in demand because it's a little upgraded GR86, right? And so, yes, for the next year or so, if you're only going to hold it for a year, there may still be some excitement out there about it. And so for a year, but most people are holding their car for like 3 years. Okay, 3 years, you're going to be stuck with a yellow car is what you're going to be stuck with. You can tell anyone you want, hey, this is a Yuzu edition, and they're not going to care in 3 years. When you have a yellow car and it's sitting on the lot, it takes a very special buyer who's willing to buy yellow. And that's a rare person. A lot of people are willing to buy blue, black, and that primer gray. Looks like somebody sprayed primer on the car and then put gloss over it. Hate that color, but it's very popular. I'm aware it's popular. The people are willing to buy that, lots of people, but almost nobody's willing to buy yellow. You have to find the right buyer. So the car's been sitting there on the lot 6 months, and no one will buy this yellow. And a lot of times you'll see if you watch them on Auto Trade, and I see price drop on a yellow car. I'm like, of course, it's a yellow car. Of course, price drop. But let's take a look at the Yuzu edition. And they're 42 grand compared to whatever a regular one costs. Orangey look, like a school bus yellow. But they are 42,300. And the Nissan was closer to a pastel yellow. I think the Nissan will be even less popular than the Yuzu in a few years. Because the Yuzu, because it's a school bus yellow, it's a little more manly. Yellow, I think of yellow as a feminine color, and I'm just warning you that you're going to pay 40 to 42,000 for it, and it is going to drop off a cliff in 3 years. If you're holding it 3 years, if you're holding it 1, you might still find some excitement out there for a Yuzu edition, if they haven't come out with 2 other special editions between now and then. But most likely you are going to get burnt on that. You'll not get 40,000. You'll not even get 30,000 back. You're better off buying a regular GR86. I think to bring the excitement back on the GR86, they should put a turbo in it and give it some power, some serious power. And maybe leather seats. Now, let's talk about why the Nismo is falling off a cliff as far as the resale value of them. Here, and then I'll let you go. So it started out and priced itself along with the M2. But it's unbelievable what is missing from it, isn't it? You just have to look at the M2 to see what's missing from the Nismo. It's missing adaptive suspension. That's very important in a car like the Nismo. It's missing leather. If you want it, I mean, some people want Alcantara. I can't imagine why you would want something that shocks you when you get in the winter, because this polyester fabric causes static as you rub against it. Absorbs sweat, absorbs stench of you might have someone in the car that doesn't smell good, and their stench is going to be in that forever. Liquids go through it and end up in the foam of your seat. On the steering wheel, any skin cells coming off your hands, and dirt, sweat on your palms ends up in the steering wheel. With leather, it doesn't soak in. It's just right on the surface, just wipe it off. You can't get leather in the Nismo even if you want it. And you get rich, sumptuous leather in the M2. The M2 has better tech. This is crucial. This is crucial about the Nismo, okay? The Nismo, the M2 has actual body widening over the 2 Series, the normal 2 Series BMW. When they make the M2, they make different rear quarter panels that are actually wider to accommodate the wider tires back. The Nismo, what do? They give you a tiny bit wider tire, but they put stick-ons on the front and back quarters. Stick-on widening. It gives about a ½ an inch, but it's just a little stick-on thing there over the wheel well. You imagine? It's not even in the same realm as the M2, but except for the price. And isn't it funny? The market will decide the value of the car. Isn't that funny? The manufacturer can put any amount they want on that price of that Nissan. They could put $100,000 on there. At some point, somebody buys it. It ends up in the secondary market on Auto Trader or at the dealer, and you can watch this happening on Auto Trader. And what you see, well, a lot of them never left the dealer. They're still at the dealer. You do a search, so let's do it. Ramsey Nissan here has a 2024 Nismo. 5 miles on it for $56,900. Wow. MSRP is around $68 to $70. Here's one. Wilson Motor Nissan. $55,958. It's a 2024, still sitting there on the lot. MSRP was $68,100. Wow. Why are they still sitting there? Automax of the Carolinas. Well, that's a used one. Here's a new one. A new 2025, still sitting there. MSRP $68,000. They'll sell it for $61,700. Now this is their advertised price, okay? When I go in there and I tell them I've got a handful of cash, they're taking another $5,000 off. So I'll tell you right now that I could go over here and buy this red Nissan for $55,000, $56,000. I'll bet you all day long. I will bet you. Because this price they have here where they're saving you about $10,000, that's a manufacturer incentive. That's not coming from them. They haven't even begun to bargain yet on what they will take off of the car. You think they want a 2024 sitting on their lot in 2026? No. No. 2024 sitting there, new at Kraft Nissan. They're just talking about the MSRP, but we already know there are dealer incentives to the tune of nearly $10,000. So they will take $55,000 in cash, okay? $55,000. Here's a new one. New 2024s, they're still sitting around. They're still sitting there. Plenty to be had. 55, any of these, 55 all day long, okay? So look at this dealer. This is interesting. New 2024 Nissan Z Nismo. MSRP 71,060. Asking $60,995. And like I said, that's just the manufacturer incentive. If they're advertising it as 60, they're going to take 55. 55 all day long. All day long. Any of these. So they're all advertising 60 now. He will take 55. And then when you take it home and try to trade it in 2 years, you will find one of the highest residual losses that's out there. Not the highest. You won't find it in the top 10. But you're going to find a high residual loss. What you want to buy if you're in the market is the Supra, obviously. You want to buy a used Supra that somebody's just barely driven. You know, they're out there. So you're looking at 2,000-3,000 miles. And maybe it's 2 years old, right? You want to see some good residual? You get a good deal on one of those. Buy it not at the Toyota dealer, but buy it from, let's say, a Chevy dealer that's got the Supra sitting there. They'll give you the absolute bottom dollar. And you can probably drive that Supra for 2 years and not pay much for the car, for your use of the car during that time. You pay for insurance and all that stuff. You'll lose a tiny bit of residual, but since you already took a lot of that residual pain out of it for yourself, you waited 2 years. You found some old guy that bought it and put 1,000 miles a year on it. They're out there. They're out there. It's a second vehicle for some guy. He's got an SUV. And he drives it occasionally on the weekend. Plenty of those out there. And then you take that extra residual off of it because you're buying it at the Chevy dealership or something like that. And you're getting max bottom dollar. When you go to trade that in, you're not going to pay much for the ownership of that Supra. These Nissans, you're getting killed on that. Now the GR86, you buy that Yuzu, I think you're going to get killed on the excess above what you pay over, say, just a regular old blue one or black one. Whatever you paid extra for that Yuzu edition, you'll lose all that. You'll lose all that. When you go to trade it in, it'll just be considered just a regular old GR86. I don't think you'll get killed because it's yellow. If you're trading it in to a dealer or something like that. If you're trying to sell on your own, you're in trouble. Because on your own, you can't afford to sit around for a year and wait on someone who likes yellow. That can be a long, long wait. Anyway, just want to talk about yellow cars and talk about Nissan Zs and show you what's going on. They're falling off a cliff. If you want a Nissan Z and someone's put 500 miles on it, just the performance one, let's say you want a blue performance. Right now in 2026, don't pay over 39. 39 grand, that's what you can get for. And then the market has determined what that car's worth. The market has said, wait a second. I don't care what you put on the sticker. This is the market value. And this is where reality hits you, where the rubber meets the road, to use an automotive analogy. Anyway, see you in the next video.